Hello everyone and welcome to Souq Waqif in Doha in Qatar, where KEEPUP has arrived early to bring you wall-to-wall coverage of the Socceroos campaign at the World Cup, and in fact of all the teams at the World Cup. David Weiner with you here, joined by David Davutovic and Tom Smithies. Gentlemen, we've been here for just over 24 hours. Your first impressions of Qatar and the World Cup here?
Interesting, very low-key compared to previous World Cups, and we have been to a few. It will clearly fire up as we get closer to the first games. But look, it's a beautiful place. It's unique. I actually haven't been to Qatar. Tom has. But look, the hospitality's been amazing. The food has been first class. So the experience has been largely positive thus far.
And the coffee as well, might add.
Coffee is outstanding and is a lot more enlivening than the fan fest behind us, which is currently empty because the supposed million fans have not come in yet. They're going to have an interesting experience when they do, judging by how hot it is right now in the middle of the day. They're watching games on the big screen and drinking beers that are apparently going to be for $12 for a half a litre of Budweiser.
How many Australian dollars is that?
Too many for Budweiser, but it's going to be pretty warm. If you're here in the all afternoon drinking beer and watching football, by the end of it you could be a little bit red.
We did just have a Tunisian fan walk past us, I think, if you saw that on shot. So a few fans starting to roll in. Dave, you mentioned that you two have been to plenty of World Cups. We have a very experienced team here for KEEPUP covering this particular tournament. At this stage, how does it compare in terms of the build-up compared to the tournaments you've been to previously, both in terms of the atmosphere and also the football build-up?
Very difficult to compare because it's the first time we've had a World Cup in the middle of the season. It's the shortest build-up we've ever had. 1 week, 1.5 weeks versus 3.5 weeks. Usually they'd have 2 or 3 friendlies. You'd have a pre-camp in your home country, then come into the host country. So it's all very different, very unique. I think the Socceroos are really, really well placed to capitalise on that because of the fact that they've played a lot of games here, because of the fact that they've got an amazing base at the Aspire Academy. And in terms of the World Cup itself, again, I mean, Brazil, Japan, Germany, South Africa, etc., certainly would have been a lot busier at this stage, but I think a lot of that's down to, Middle Eastern culture and whatnot. I think once the games do roll around, I think it will be heaving.
Aspire Academy is where we're spending a fair bit of our time, going to watch the Socceroos train, speak to the players in their media ops. It's very hot. We're recording this around 1 o'clock in the afternoon here. It's extremely hot. But we were extremely surprised what happened by the time the Socceroos training commenced last night.
Just walking out of the media centre, having been in and out all afternoon and remarking constantly on how hot it was and how could you possibly train in this heat, and then walking out at 5 o'clock when the Socceroos were about to train, and it was as if someone had just turned down the thermostat quite significantly. 10, 15, maybe 20 degree difference, that's what it felt like in the temperature, and I'd love to have had a game of football at that stage. We were on the edge of the pitch, itching to get involved. Tim Cahill was there spraying the ball around, like rolling back the ears, and the facilities, as has been said, are phenomenal. The pitch they're playing on, the pitches they're training on are superb. But definitely no issues at all training in the afternoon. Interesting though, on social media, seeing photos of other teams are training in the afternoon. England were training in the bright sunshine. I'm not sure whether that's an acclimatisation thing, given that they're playing in air-conditioned stadiums. But certainly the Socceroos, in the evening, it's perfect.
The air-conditioning stadiums is an interesting one, though, that we'll learn more about over the coming days. But from what we understand, particularly from the qualifiers that were played, that is a unique setup in its own right, that not only the players will have to get used to, we might have to pack a coat too.
Yeah, someone told me to bring a jumper because under every seat in a lot of the stadiums there's a little vent blowing out cold air. It goes right across the pitch, and the coldest point is the centre circle, logically. So it's 21 degrees there, and it's damp. It has an effect on the pitch. We can go into more detail in other podcasts and so forth, but it has an effect on the pitch, making the ball skid. So there's a few things for people to take into account and get used to, and if you have played here before, I think it could help.
It's interesting, one of the things on the to-do list FIFA sent us all before we went out was a scarf and a beanie. So that would be an interesting experience when the games do roll around. Now, at the Aspire Academy where the Socceroos train, we are keeping an eye on footballing matters. The 3 players that have come into the tournament with a question mark around them, I suppose, Dave, are Harry Sutar, Aidan Rustic, and, of course, Martin Boyle. What's the latest on that? And also from a football perspective, there's a fair bit of domino effect in terms of how those guys go with their fitness.
Correct. Well, Sutar and Hrustic perhaps not completely surprised that they are being eased back into it, especially Sutar, who missed 9 or so months with a knee reconstruction, has only played a couple of games since he's come back. So they'll ease him into it. They'll give him every opportunity. I expect him to, if he doesn't start the France game, he'll certainly start a couple of games at the World Cup. Hrustic also just returned from about a month out, came off was an unused sub for Verona over the weekend. Boyle's the interesting one. He's the big question mark, especially considering they drafted Marco Tilio to come in. He only got the call Sunday after his dominant A-League performance for Melbourne City on Saturday. Got in Monday. He's been training fully, so they clearly have to make a call at some stage. But Tilio is ready to go for Boyle or for any other player. For that matter, if they fall over.
Bit to balance, Tom, in terms of it's a race for the fitness for that first game in particular, but also do you then take the risk, keep him in the squad for the games after that? So there's a fair bit to think about over the next couple of days.
Absolutely. I think someone like Boyle is going to be so required against Tunisia, which is likely to be a game where Socceroos try to get more on the front foot. There are other players who could do an excellent job against France. So I'm not sure the clock is ticking for him quite as fast as we think it is. I think he could be being more lined up for the second game. And with Lecky, with Bill, there's a whole bunch of players that can play and have played on both sides of the pitch.
Now, we'll talk more on the KEEPUP in Qatar podcast, which you can find at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcast. Have a listen to that because we're going to go into depth in the speculation about what formation, what lineup, who's got the inside running for that first game against France. So have a listen to that, as well as downloading the KEEPUP app to get all your wall-to-wall coverage about the action here in Qatar and across all the teams involved too. But Dave, whether or not Marco Tilio does get involved in the 26, what a brilliant and unexpected opportunity for him once he'd missed the cut to get this experience before returning back to the Isuzu Youth A-League.
Absolutely. I mean, he scored the goal at the Olympics against Argentina, came off the bench. You know, that all happened really quickly. He made a finals impact a couple of years ago in the A-League really quickly after getting his starting opportunity. So you get the sense that he loves the big occasion, and if he does get the chance, I think if he made the squad, he'd be a big chance of playing. But regardless, he will relish this opportunity. And I thought he played with a bit between his teeth last week after he found out that he wasn't in the squad. So either way, I think amazing opportunity. It'll drive him forward. Yeah,
7 Isuzu Youth A-League players in this squad, which is equal to the 2014 contingent. If he does end up making it, that'll be 8, and that will be a record. Now, while we've been here, we've heard from Aaron Moy, we've heard from Fran Karacic, we've heard from Bailey Wright as well. Your impressions from those discussions, gentlemen, but also the mood that we're seeing when we've been at training and been around the camp over the last 24, 36 hours?
Unbelievably relaxed. I mean, Aaron Moy chatting more forthcoming than I've really ever heard him. Never likes doing interviews, was relaxed, was self-reflective, was talking about the little boy inside him and the motivation from that, the little boy who was excited at the thought of going to a World Cup to get fit enough when he had no club to play in the playoffs. Bailey Wright today, Bailey's a great talker anyway, loves a chat, but just talking about the visualization techniques that he uses to, even when he wasn't playing at Sunderland, the mental techniques he was using to stay up, to force himself to do the physical work so he'd be ready. Fran Karacic just delighted to be there, slightly starstruck in the spotlight of the media interviews. They do seem very relaxed. They don't seem overawed by the occasion, and just in a good vibe, to coin a phrase.
Indeed, and to the point that when we were waiting for training to start, Graham Arnold was there joking around in the middle of the centre circle, sort of goading with the journalist there that he had information on his paper and his lineup that we couldn't see. So yeah, agree with that. But also, have you sensed a sense of steel as well from the guys, particularly Aaron Moy, who was playing France, but I play against these guys, and I've played against guys at that level for the last few years.
Absolutely. I echo Tom's sentiments. Moy was really confident. I think he's realised he's a leader now. You've had Mile Jedinak, you've had Mark Milligan, these types of players, Tim Cahill, particularly at the last World Cup. He's now one of those leaders. He's not a natural leader. A lot of it is through actions, but I think he's realised it's my time to step up. And I think there's a huge confidence that's come out of his last few months at Celtic. He's playing for a team that dominates possession. He gets a lot of touches on the ball. He's played enough football. He's got 20 appearances, albeit only 8 starts, but he's got enough minutes under his belt, but he's played Champions League football as well. So he's been on the same level as, some of those top Danish players and the French players. So he will absolutely feel like he belongs when he goes out there. And we forget also last World Cup was his first. His sort of, purple patch came after the 2014 World Cup. So, him, Bailey, they're all speaking with confidence. I think they're really going to go out against France and give it a red-hot crack.
Well, the countdown continues, and be sure to stick with Keep Up, be it on our social channels, the A-League's social channels, or the Keep Up app, of course, to keep in touch with everything that's happening here in Qatar. Dave, Tom, I think it's time to get some shade. Hope you enjoyed that cross, and as I said, download the Keep Up app for all the action here in Qatar.